With brakes and steering temporarily in position, it's time to make a more permanent, slightly adjustable fixture. As I temporarily set all this up, I found out that the top pivot point of my brake pedal is going to be way higher than the upper tube. The only way to remedy that was going to be to shorten the brake pedal arm and refabricate a pedal, and also the brake booster would be standing up about this high above the side tubes, and I wanted it down lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a jig that's adjustable up and down and a little bit side to side, so I can make sure I get this pedal centered the right way. And this is about what my new brake pedal is going to be. So by changing the length of the brake pedal, I end up with the pivot point below the top tube. I also end up lowering the center line of the brake master cylinder, which will bring my master cylinder, my booster, below the top of the rail, and keep my pedal the same height as the original pedal. So to figure out the exact height of my mounting points for my brake master cylinder and my positioning left or right, to make sure I get the brake pedal centered up with the driver, I'm going to have to come up with some kind of a fixture to hold all this in place. And this is the thingamajig or jig that I'm going to build. Just going to be made out of some stuff that's left laying around the shop. Stuff also known as screwed together universal fibrous fixture, made out of a fibrous material known as pine. So I've screwed all my stuff together, and what I've found out is, so far I've been able to move it back a couple inches, which gives me more clearance at the front, which is helping a lot. But I have to raise it up a little bit to get the pedal to the 6.5 inches that it is on the stock vehicle. The pivot point is already higher than the master cylinder, which means I'm going to have to raise the pedal another 1/2 inch, and I'm going to have to raise the master cylinder, looks like about 1.5 inches to catch up to it. So right now my master cylinder is against my stuffed jig here. So I'm going to have to cut this off, put a splice plate across the top of it, so I've got enough clearance for the master cylinder and the reservoir to raise up that extra 1.5 inches. But so far this jig has helped me a lot. It's figured out a lot of problems before they got too severe. So now that I've got the notch cut in here, I've got enough room to raise the master cylinder up. After multiple adjustments, we're back to our regularly on-scheduled program. What I was aiming for is to get this pedal about 6.5 inches above the floor. The floor will be about right here. What I've got is about 6 1/8 roughly right now, maybe 6 1/4. That's high enough. All right. Well, the purpose of making this jig is to be able to temporarily set that pedal in place and get the distance to where my seat will be all the way back. Figure out how much room I'm going to need for my air duct around here. And then measure the distance from the pedal all the way to the back of the seat. That's why I moved it back a couple inches, because with the seat max back it was 43 inches before. See, it's all charts and graphs and well laid out drawings. That's the printout you get from CAD, Cranium Aided Design. It's not real scientific, but it works. So anyway, setting the seat where it needed to be, I found out that I could move this back. So I moved it back. I found out that my pedal wasn't high enough off the floor, so I was able to move it up, and all with just a few pieces of lumber. Didn't have to remake any brackets when I found out it was bad. I got the seat to the position that I wanted the seat in, width-wise, and I found out by being able to move the pedal back, I'll be able to get the seat a little further from the center than what it was going to end up, because now my brake master cylinder will clear this curve. It was up here against it. Now I'll be able to move it over another, probably a good strong inch. That'll let me move steering wheel over an inch and the seat over an inch, because I've got plenty of room on the outside of the seat to the outside bar for elbow clearance. Well, that was my mark to move it over an inch. I couldn't quite get the full inch because I wanted to leave a little bit of clearance for the master cylinder. But it does give me clearance between the brake pedal and the steering knuckle there. So we're working on steering column, brakes, all that. So how did we get to putting in a windshield tube? Well, the windshield tube is going to have to be set down into the same spot that the dash tube attaches to. And the dash tube, when it gets put in, it's going to have to raise up just a little bit above the side tubes. But it's also going to have to be parallel with this windshield tube. The windshield I'm going to plan on making is going to be flat, so all that has to be perfectly parallel. And what I'm thinking is that putting the windshield tube in first and paralleling that dash tube, because it's not going to be as many complicated bends, is going to be the easiest way to do that. Did a little work last night on figuring out the angle of the windshield, set it up to see how it looks, and I think that's got a good rake to it. Top tube will be this way and then bend down a little bit. Windshield tube will just curve across. And now the fun part of having all this stuff in a two-car garage. And now I have room to get to my bender and bend some tubing. Alright, I put the windshield hoop in, A-pillar support. Now, getting ready to do a tube across here for dash and steering wheel support, and something further forward for bottom of the windshield, and brake pedal, brake master cylinder to mount to. Decisions to make. I'm going to use the original instrument cluster. I don't know how much I'm going to change on this, but do I mount it so it stays with the steering column, moves up and down with the steering column, or do I mount it so it stays with the dash the way it was on the original car? My plan is all this will be sheet metal stuff. So what I know I'm going to do is cut this loose from the tube and use this bracket to mount the steering column back to. Stuff I've got to figure out yet.